Welcome back to Garden Talk, brought to you by the Penn State Erie County Extension Master Gardeners. And again today, I'm your co-host, Mike Bailey. And
I'm here, Ellen Diplacido.
Ellen, nice
Good
to have
morning,
you.
Mike.
Good morning. Nice to have you with us again today. Hey, the last couple times we've talked about gardening methods, and a couple brief things that I want to mention about raised beds in particular. Number one, when you do a raised bed, you don't have to dig up the soil where you're going to put the raised bed. You can put that right on top of your sod someplace if you want. As long as you got about, if you're going to make them about 10 inches tall, you don't have to worry about that. And you don't have to cover the bottom, with any kind of weed block material. I never do that. That grass and those weeds are not going to come up through, 8 to 10 inches of soil and cause a problem for you in the garden. And the other thing is that when you fill up raised beds, you need to fill them virtually to the top. We fill ours level with the edges of the bed, and it'll settle a little bit. In fact, on following years, you might even end up adding a little bit more material to that.
Topping it off almost every year.
Yeah, every once in a while we see these raised beds, they're 8 inches tall, but they got 1.5 inches of soil in them. And I go, wait, that defeats the whole purpose, okay? So let's do that. But what do you want to talk about today?
We're going to talk about container gardens and why we might and how, how, and when.
Okay, fine. And this is one of your favorite topics because I think you like to do some of this. And
with flowers primarily. Yep.
With flowers primarily, and we do some of that here at our house also, and even down in Emmaus we do some of this. In fact, that reminds me, I need to dig out some things out of my root cellar here and get them started.
I was thinking about that the other day.
Yes, because the weather's starting to get better. But when you talk about a container garden, I think of one thing in particular, one 3-letter word. And it's a nice 3-letter word, big. Okay?
Big, okay.
And
I was thinking large, and I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going, okay.
Yeah, I know. I have trouble counting. Big or large? Okay. Large. I like shorter things. Okay, but it reminds me of a story of I got a call down at the extension office. Some lady, she was having problems with a tomato that she was growing, and it just didn't do well. It was always drying out. Didn't look well. Didn't grow. And I go, what do you have it in? She says, well, that container that I got at the garden center. You mean that green plastic one that they initially started the plant? And I go, she says, yes. I go, no. You can't do that. Okay. No. That was never meant to maintain that plant throughout the growing season. Okay. It was meant to just grow it they were growing that plant in that smaller pot while it was, starting to grow. And then once you took it home, the idea was you were going to put it in your garden or put it in a larger container that allowed for plant growth and root growth, et cetera, and stuff like that. So kind of keep that in mind. I'm not making fun of, people, but sometimes they just don't understand that, the root structure is so very, very important, and it can get quite extensive. So you need a larger container, to put this in. And there's a lot of nice larger containers, at some of the big box stores in particular. Some of those ones that are made out of that foam type material, those are really kind of nice.
Yeah, they're not too heavy.
They're not too heavy. They last quite a few years.
Right.
I've had.
I have a couple of those.
Yeah, I have same here, and I've used them for 6 and 7 years, and they still look pretty decent. So I'm going to continue. Yeah. So when you buy a big container like that, which is what you want to do, what are you going to fill it with, Ellen?
Well, there's a couple things you want to remember. You want at least 10 inches, because hopefully this pot is really big, at least 10 inches of that really good soil. It's light, water will go through it well. And then you could fill the bottom with rocks or soil from your garden or your yard or something like that, but you don't need that good soil all the way through that pot, but at least 10 inches at the top.
Yeah.
And I think we mentioned this before with the other one, is the Pro Mix. You could use that Pro Mix for the 10 inches of good soil, right?
Yeah, the Pro Mix are our regular old potting soil that they have in the stores.
Soil.
Okay, which is light. It's got a lot of vermiculite and perlite in it, along with some peat moss, and that'll work really well. You know, and it's a little bit pricey, I understand. But if you want your containers to do well, you need to get them off. You need to be able to accommodate that root structure. And like you said, yeah, you can put some gravel or some rocks in the bottom of them because you don't have to fill it all the way to the top with that expensive material. Or you can put styrofoam in the bottom if you want to keep them a little bit lighter. You know,
I was going to say you might not want. Maybe you do want something lighter in the bottom if you feel like you're going to have to move them.
Okay, good.
Different locations.
Good point. And you know, why would somebody want to do this? Why would somebody want to have containers?
Well, number one, they don't have a lot of space. Maybe they live in an apartment, or maybe they just don't have the space outside to even have one raised bed. So container gardening is really good. You can put it on your porch or on your patio, in a sun porch, or even in your living room if you have to. And if you don't want to raise a lot of vegetables, you're not trying to raise vegetables to feed your family. Maybe you just want a few tomatoes or a few peppers or flowers and herbs. Container gardening would be the way to go, I think.
Yeah, and some flowers for a nice accent in front of the house, et cetera, and stuff like that, that are elevated up above, and you don't have to do weeding. You know, again, it's easy to you just trim around it, and it's fine. Right. That's what I kind of like about it. You know, it's you can. And they'll do so well in a container with good potting soil. You know, all you got to do is, and they won't dry out like a hanging basket will, not as easily. And
not as easily.
You know, but you do need to fertilize them every once in a while. In that container, you got to make sure that container has some drainage holes in it, though.
I was going to mention that too. Make sure the water can drain through because you don't want it sitting on the roof.
Yeah. So I would encourage you to, you know, do some container gardening. And you can use, you don't have to have an expensive pot from the store. You can use other things. You can pile a couple tires on top of each other, old tires, or you can, you know, do something else that you might have around the house, or you can build something, you know, a box, you know, that's 2 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot, you know, and do quite well with all of that. And
just make sure that it's large enough to handle whatever you plant in it.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's the big thing.
Okay, Ellen, we've gone past our time, so we have to kind of sign off for today. So thank you for listening, everyone. Thank you now.
All right. Have a good day.